All righty. Hello, everybody. I know it's been a while. I am Nick. We are here with Phil, and Emil couldn't join us. He is on vacation in Puerto Rico or Costa Rica, so we wish him safe travels and have fun. But we do have a better guest for you today. It's Mary. She was in episode 2. I thought we'd have her here today because we have a lot to discuss, and some primarily from from the Asian female perspective. So I wanted to get her on here, and also I think we should also have like a female take on everything, anyways, in this world, because I think that's just how everything should be. So, Mary, welcome.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Completely agree about the female perspective. And I just went back in our messages. And the last time I was on an episode was in 2020, so during the pandemic.
Oof.
Oh
And
man.
3 years, yeah, just about 3 years. I feel like so much has changed since then. Um, I've grown a lot since then, and this movie came out since then, and that's completely changed my perspective, I think, too. So excited to talk.
No, no problem at all. So let's go ahead and start with that. If for those of you who are watching, the last time we talked to you, Shang-Chi had just came out and we had talked and we were planning on doing more. We just got busy, everyone's schedules. So now we're at a point where the Oscars have been, it's been about a month, but at the Oscars, we kind of saw some groundbreaking things. A film called Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And spoilers ahead if you haven't seen it. But that was a pretty much Asian cast film, Asian led film with an Asian director. I know it was a co-director type of thing with a white director and Asian director, but we're getting there. It's steps at a time. And at that same time, we saw a supporting male Asian actor, and we saw a female lead actress win it. So that's one big thing for us, and I just wanted to discuss that. So we'll start with Mary. Kind of, I know Mary said she's kind of been looking into this film and everything, so I want to hear her perspective, and then we'll go to Phil.
So there's so much I could say about this film and how it's impacted me. I've seen it probably at least 5 times at this point, twice in theaters. I remember seeing it first in 2021 with my friends, and I had never had a theater experience like it. I think a lot of people were saying that at the time, just the surprise and the joy and the mix of genres and emotions it pulled out of me was just incredible. Um, I don't think a movie has ever made me feel so seen before as the daughter of two immigrants who came here to the US and a queer woman who is not really on great open terms with my family about that. I just felt like I saw a lot of myself in Joy. And you mentioned that he and Michelle had those nominations and won. I think Stephanie Hsu just was incredible and like I said, just made me feel so represented. And just brought so much of her talent into this and really came out to me as like the biggest breakout star from the movie. So I don't know where you want to go from there, what you had planned, but I love this movie so much. I can go on and on about it.
Phil, let's get your takes, and then I'm going to ask you guys questions about a few things. I have some notes written down. I wrote a bunch of things down, so but I want to hear your take on it, Phil, first, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely love the movie. Upon second viewing of it, there's so much that I missed the first time that really made me realize how incredibly clever the writing was. So I don't know if you guys watched it more than once or not, but second viewing on it, like there was a lot of really subtle foreshadowing and stuff that they did that was really eloquently written. So very impressed by that. But just in general, I remember seeing I might pronounce his name wrong, Ki Hui Kwan, um, as Short Round in Indiana Jones. That was like some of the first and earliest representation I saw of an Asian male in any films as a very, very stereotypical character. And then he was in Goonies as well. So great little like child actor, but like his characters were always just very like stereotyped. So it was great to see this growth into, an Oscar winning performance of something that just didn't come off as a stereotype, which was just great for me. Seeing somebody that like I related to as a small child now can relate to as an adult as well.
So my take was when it first came out, I was not gonna see it. I remember seeing the hot dog finger fight, and I just thought, I was like, oh man, this is gonna be one of those stupid kind of fantasy things, and I just like, I don't want to. And then the more like and I didn't see it up to the Oscars, and then after the Oscars I was like, okay, maybe I'll check it out, you know. So I had a little time one day and I turned it
You
on, and it
waited
was
that
like,
long? I cannot.
yes, I did. I
I'm
know,
impossible.
I did. And then I finally watched it, and it got me to that point where I was like, I kind of need to watch it again, because there was a lot to take in with that whole film. And I enjoyed it. I'm glad that I did watch it. It's one of those films that I'm glad I didn't miss out on it. But um I was a little hesitant because nothing against like Michelle Yeoh or Ki Kwan. They were brilliant in the film, but um I just like, for me, my image of Michelle Yeoh is like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and
Right.
these very stereotypical like Asian roles. So I was like, "Ugh, I don't want to see this again." And like you said, with Ki Kwan, kind of these like, you know, Data with all the inventions. It's the Asian kid that's got to have the inventions, and you know, and then of course Short Round being kind of the Asian sidekick. You know, this kid that drives a car because he's from, you know, Vietnam, and it just all this stuff. And it was all that, but it was actually really well done. It was, like you said, it was a film that, you know, I think it was a film where Asians can look at it and feel represented and everything. And like I said, is I know there's the criticism of it too, but I think it's like, we can't have it all at once. It's not going to change overnight where we're just going to have Asians and all Asians in film and everything like that. And so we have to accept these little steps, because we are making the steps in the right direction. So that's my take on it. One of the questions I was going to ask you guys was, because I talked about this a little bit. First, I want to start with Ki Kwan winning supporting actor. Right now, with all the other nominees that were in that category and all the other shows and films, um, thoughts on it? Do you think he deserved it, or you think there was another film, somebody else that equally deserved it? Look, we can start with Mary, and then we'll go to Phil.
Okay, I'm going to be real. I'm not always an expert in keeping track of every single movie that is presented at the Oscars. Do you have a
Yes.
rundown of who is nominated? Because I'm so sorry. It's just
I can
I was
look real
rooting for
quick.
him no matter what. I did see Banshees. I did like that movie a lot. But I don't know. I think that the Oscars both focus on the performance, but also think about what's going to have um, the most cultural relevancy in terms of who they nominate and who wins. And I think in terms of the cultural impact and the message they want to present as an organization, I didn't think there was any other option but he in terms of the splash that the movie made and his
So
incredible return to acting after decades of
that
not.
was the surprising thing, was like he hadn't been in anything. And you know, like I remember him, his speech, he talked about being a fight choreographer for the first X-Men film. And I remember when that film came out, briefly hearing about that, but it's like I forgot all about it, and he doesn't really get the credit for it, you know. And it's Bryan Singer, and you know, all those types of things. So supporting actors nominations was Brendan Gleeson for Banshees, um then you had Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Judd Hirsch for the Fablemans, which I thought was an awesome film. Barry, I'm gonna say his name wrong. Barry Keoghan or Keoghan,
Hogan, I believe,
for, yeah,
but I'm
for the
not sure.
Banshees, and then of course Ki Kwan. I thought Ki Kwan, it was well deserved. I know there were a lot of people that really liked Banshees, and thought that one of those two should have. Again, it's one of those things that, for me, I'm glad he won. Um, but and then, like I said, it's steps. But you know, there's never been an Asian male that's won Best Actor. You know, and it's been, this is what 101, 100 Oscars, 101 first Oscar. So it's like it's been 100, almost 100 years, and we haven't had an Asian male win for you know, lead. And I don't even know if there was an Asian male even nominated for lead. So you know,
Kevin Yoon in 2020 for Minari, he
oh
was
yeah,
nominated.
he was nominated, wasn't he? But
And that was
he
a
didn't win.
phenomenal role.
Yes,
Phenomenal role.
it was. And you know, we have seen that with films, Parasite and all these films have started winning, these kind of foreign films and these Asian films and everything started winning. So, like I said, I get it. It's going there. And then of course Michelle Yeoh winning Best Actress. Now I want you guys to share your thoughts because I know Jamie Lee Curtis won for Best Supporting for this film too, and I didn't know that was her first Oscar. I could have sworn she had won for something else, which I'm so glad she won for this film because of the context and everything else. But just your thoughts on Michelle Yeoh, and then I'm gonna share my thoughts and ask you guys kind of a question that's gonna make you think a little bit. So, if you want to start with Mary and then Phil, you can give your thoughts about Michelle winning.
Sure. I'd actually like to go back and share my thoughts on both Key and Michelle.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
One of the things that I love about Key's representation and the writing of his character in the film, I watched a video by the pop culture detective a few weeks ago, or whenever he posted it, about how one of the best things about Wayman's character and about what it means for Asian male representation is that a lot of times when men are seen as like not as masculine per se, or not as tough presenting, a movie will create an arc where this man, especially Asian men, like, oh, they get a makeover, they look amazing, or they act different in order to prove their worth. And one great thing about Wayman's character is that he embraces his empathy for others and his love for his family, and that's what ultimately causes a change in Michelle's character. So I just really admire that the film went in that direction, that Wayman was actually the heart, I think, of a lot of the change that the family needed. And he was there the whole time. He didn't have to completely change his personality or look different. He just asked them to please, like, be kind to each other. And I just find that incredibly remarkable. And I don't know, in terms of Michelle's character, I love how she just works so hard at portraying like that stressed out Asian mom that I see in my mother. The confusion about, I don't know, how much more complicated and non-linear her life ended up being than a lot of people think it's going to be when they come to America. So I praise the writing and the performances. I don't think they could have been better cast for those two.
I completely agree. So for both of them, for Key, there were a couple moments where like he transitions from the Raymond that's like the main Raymond and Raymond from the Alpha universe, where he does it so quickly and seamlessly, but you instantly know that he's the other character. And to be able to really do that, it reminded me of like what was it? Split? Was it Split or
Yes,
yeah, it was Split,
Split.
where James McAvoy was able to just walk on to the screen and present a completely different character, and just his mannerisms, the way he moved, the way he spoke, the way he stood, the way he carried himself. And it was great seeing another great performance that way. Like I said, it's great that he was Asian and we get this representation, but just from a performance standpoint, there was one time when like he just found out that his wife wanted to leave him, and he looked completely, totally gut shot when she said like, "Hey, I don't like it. We would have been better off if I'd have never come with you." Like he has this look on his face that just says just instant turmoil, and like that was like the worst moment of his life. And then less than half a second later, he's another character completely into it, and you see that change instantly. It's a very impressive thing to do. So like I said, I feel like it's a totally deserving performance, just from a performance standpoint. And then same with Michelle Yeoh. Like every time her character changes, the fact that she's going through this dealing with multiple personalities at the same time, she was able to seamlessly represent being a stressed out mom, being a kung fu artist, being a hot dog finger person, which was hilarious to me. But like she was able to embody all of these characters so seamlessly and still show that she is one character struggling with all of these other characters at the same time. And it was a very believable performance that like that's what she was going through. So seeing stuff like that was super impressive. So just I cannot even state how impressive of a performance I feel like those were. I don't act myself. I am a director, cinematographer, so I'm mostly behind the camera. But from a director's standpoint, it's the kind of performance that you see that makes you just kind of drool. It's like the fact that they can do that, it just makes you want to work with them because like they could do so much with the direction they're given, and it's just so impressive.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think they're all so wacky, but also lovable and endearing. And they just do this movie asks them to do so many things. The directors ask them to do so many unique things in terms of, okay, so how do you encapsulate suddenly feeling 100,000 things all at once while still maintaining this emotional core of who you are? And I think that was, yeah.
Oh yeah, and I love the flip that Mary talked about earlier, where like don't have this giant masculine man that's full of muscles and stuff going around beating up everyone. Yes, he had some great scenes where he beat the crap out of people. But like I said, it was like out of his personality, which is what made it great. It wasn't like, hey, this is just who all Asian men are, martial artists that do everything. And I love, like Mary said, the fact that we kind of flipped it on its head, and it wasn't that whole hey, like I'm gonna be the martial artist and I'm gonna kick everyone's ass and that's what's gonna win the day. It was that, hey, I'm a human being and I empathize and I have hope that we can be kind to each other. And that as the message that wins the day versus somebody's fist is something that's super refreshing, just because usually it's the other way around.
Yeah, and I think the show or the movie did an incredible job at introducing us to Alpha Wayman at the beginning of the movie and thinking that this was going to be one of the big saviors, but then later killing him off. So it ended up being the original Wayman, the more pure, silly, putting googly eyes on everything Wayman that brought that kindness and softened the blows rather than throwing fists and being the crazy martial artist that the alpha Wayman was. And I think that discourse in terms of like, oh, alpha men versus beta men
Mm-hmm.
has come up a lot because of certain terrible male misogynistic figures who have risen in personality and stardom in our society. But yeah, this so refreshing and lovely to see representation of that not being the reality of what masculinity has to be.
Okay, so here's the question to you. Now, this is one you guys can share your thoughts. It's a safe place. There's been, I after this film and after the Academy Awards, I kind of just like looked a lot of stuff up, watched a lot of interviews with it, watched professors analyze the film. Of course, there was a panel of Asian actors talking about the film, and a bunch of different things. And one of the things that's brought up is, okay, we're taking the steps, but is an Asian male winning best supporting and an Asian female winning best lead, is that racist? Is that stereotypical? Because what we're saying is that, like, if you look at a lot of half Asian, half American, or mixed Asian people, it's usually their mother is Asian, their father is white. Generally a lot of it that you hear. Now, not always, of course, but that's a lot of my friends I have. I know that they're, oh, my dad served in Korea and met my mom, or vice versa. Or a lot of them are like, I was stationed over there and he met my mom and everything. And you don't see a lot of like there are the Asian fathers with the American mothers, but most of them they have an Asian mother and a white father. And the question that is asked is that, is America, is society more comfortable with a leading Asian woman than they are with a leading Asian man? Because we see that more. It's more like the Asian women are more loving, that kind of stereotype of like, we don't have anything to fear from them. They're not here. Where if the Asian male is like that stereotype where, well, he can be the sidekick and he can win for best sidekick, but don't put him in. I was looking at the nominations. Of course, Brendan Fraser won for Whale, and Whale is an amazing film. I watched it. I'm so glad Brendan Fraser won because of his story and everything he's been through. It is great. It's like, kind of like Mary said, it's refreshing. It's like the reverse of what we hear about women being, sexually assaulted, or women, having the male having the power over the woman. Where here it was different in a way, but it was all just kind of a huge thing. And then Austin Butler was awesome in Elvis, but then you had Colin Farrell, Bill Nye, and Paul Mescal for After Sun. So I was looking at all those, and of course, you know, if Key, I think if Key would have been the main actor, he may have been nominated for that. Who knows? Would he have beat Brendan? Would he have beat Austin? You know, I don't know. So the question to you guys and just your thoughts is that, do you feel that same way? I know a lot, it was kind of split when I was watching a lot of Asians talk about it. There's so a lot, some of them are very happy and said no, it's not, because it's a step forward. An Asian male won Best Supporting, and that's good for us. But will it be another 100 years before we see another Asian male nominated for Best Actor? You know, where now we have the Asian women finally winning for Best Actress. We had them all for supporting, and now a lot of Asian actresses, you are seeing Constance Wu. You see a lot of these Asian women are becoming the leads, and these Asian males. Let's forget about Henry Golding because he's mixed. Let's forget about Daniel Henney because he's mixed. But let's talk about guys like Stephen Yun, like John Cho, like fully Asian. You know, will you ever see them and as a lead, and will they be nominated as a lead?
I think we'll see a lot more, just because I don't feel like it was necessarily like a race thing. I think it was an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when we've presented these really great performances, like Stephen Yeun from Minari, who was just phenomenal. Like I said, you can't argue with the fact that what their performance is incredible. And the fact of the matter isn't necessarily like how many nominations, because if I look back on it and I really think about, okay, aside from martial arts movies where we had an Asian male actor as the lead, there's almost none. Like we've had some horror movies, Searching with Stephen Cho, and then or John Cho, and I'm sorry, John Cho, not Stephen Cho, and then Stephen Yeun from Minari. Like I said, we don't have these huge amounts of roles out there where we get the chance to not be the martial arts star and actually do a performance. Like I said, I can think of like just a very small handful where there's a leading man. Almost all of them are comedies or horror movies or something. So to get a dramatic role shot in America about American society where you actually have a male role, every time there has been one, there has been a lot of talk about how great the performances were. So it's like, if we're talking percentages, we're batting a very high percentage. So that's good. But it's one of those things that I look at it and I say, it's just the fact that the opportunities are becoming more prevalent. You're bound to see more. You saw the same thing with the African American for a long time. You just didn't have those big lead roles. And as there started to be more, their performances got recognized. So just the fact that there's going to be more, we've proven time and time again that it can be done. You can have a strong male role that's Asian, and he can deliver a phenomenal performance. So I don't think it will be a long time before we see a win and more nominations. Just speaking of nominations, don't forget that Stephanie got nominated as Best Supporting Actress as well. So like I said, I thought she had a phenomenal performance, but if I'm picking a Best Supporting Actress, I mean, I thought Jamie Lee Curtis had a better range and a better role. So she had this great opportunity, and I feel like either one of them could have won it easily. But I'm not upset with it. I'm not saying, hey, that was like racist. The Asian person should have won or anything like that. I feel like it could have really gone either way for him. I'm very happy for Jamie Lee Curtis. I do think she deserves one, but I think we have a lot to see from Stephanie. I think she's gonna really start doing more stuff, and we're gonna have a ton more opportunities to see stuff because it's less of a semblance of like the other anymore. So we don't have this feeling anymore of, hey, it's exotic and we just want to make this sexy stereotype of an Asian woman or this nerdy guy as an Asian male. The fact that we're seeing more all around is great. That representation is becoming more and more real. And as we get that, we'll see more and more awards and more wins, more nominations.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it will be very long at all. I think that this movie has inspired not only actors, but writers, directors who are Asian that are willing and capable of telling our stories to see themselves and feel inspired. Because I remember mentioned in one of his speeches and one of his interviews that he was inspired when Crazy Rich Asians came out and thought, wow, I could be a part of a movie again, of something again, where I won't just be set aside as some kind of, like you said, Phil, like a stereotype. Um, I think that I just want to be mindful that we don't create a huge competition between Asian male and Asian female representation, because we both, as Asian men and women, have a long way to go. I think that this movie did an excellent job at breaking down and not leaning into sexualizing the Asian women,
Mhm.
nor the Asian men, or looking down on anyone. I think that it's a complicated situation, but there's definitely a need for representation for both in a way that is, I don't know. So without, it's so hard to describe, I think, but in
Yep.
a way that is very humanizing and accepting.
Sure. And like I said, I enjoyed it. I'm glad, like I said, it's little steps, and I know people want to be up there and say we should have one nominated every year. We should have an Asian male nominated every year for best actor, for best supporting. We should have Asian female nominated every year for best. But like you said, the problem is we don't have right now a lot of Asian writers, producers, directors, and until we get more, until we get kind of, and honestly, as going to film school, and I remember sitting in film school looking around, and I was like the only Asian person in film school, and it was like, there were a lot of African Americans, a lot of white people, a lot of Hispanics even, and stuff like that. And I just remember being kind of the only Asian and sitting there going, man, and I'm sure in the West Coast there's probably more Asians sitting in film school maybe than there are, but um I think it's also that cultural thing barrier we have to get over, of a lot of first generation born in this country whose parents are immigrants still have that way of thinking of, you need to go to college, you need to become a doctor, you need to become a lawyer, you need to become a dentist, you need to get married, you need to have kids, and you need to be rich, and you need to be, all that kind of stuff. And I think, and until, I think now, I don't ever want anything to happen, but that generation is starting to kind of die. I shouldn't say die out, but that way of
Age
thinking.
out, it's
Yes,
just it's a
yes,
natural progression of
it's
time.
starting to go away, and we have more kind of these first and second generation now, and I think they have different mindsets. So hopefully now, with that kind of mindset, with TikTok, with Instagram, with YouTube, and all these people that now can do social media, and these hopefully more Asians will flood the industry, and you can have more directors and writers that can write Asian roles that aren't like fresh off the boat, Korean fishermen, or like kung fu masters or something like that, and have the
Or
deep
hot
accent.
Asian girls with a white boyfriend, like
Yes. Yes. And again, like I said, we kind of discussed this when we talked about Crazy Rich Asians the first time, is like, a lot, I know we had that, and that was a good film, and I felt represented. But again, like a lot of people said, there's a lot wrong with that too, is because Henry Goulding is half Asian, half American, and he's 6'2", 6'3", has a British accent, and half of the Asian cast, the men on there, were all British and had British accents, and these beautiful British accents and everything. And then if you look at the one Asian, I can't think of his name right now. I will think of it. The best friend who was the best man, who's like this short guy. He was the comic relief, and there's the funny guy and everything else. And there was a lot of Asians who talked about that, who said, that's, the stereotype is that they had the actual full Asian, that was the geeky short guy that looks what we think of Asian, be the funny guy, and we had the half Asian British, kind of guy as the lead, who's this beautiful man. But again, like I said, it's little steps, and I will take the little steps as long as we're going this way and we're not going this way. Because the second we start going this way, it's over. So as long as we're progressively, Shang-Chi kind of put us over, and now we finally have an Asian superhero. I think that Asians can get behind. Hopefully, the funny thing is Shang-Chi was liked by more people than Asian Asians. The Asian population was like the least ones that like supported and watched Shang-Chi. If you look at that, it was just, and which is
I
kind of
mean,
funny. And
to a degree, it's still a stereotype. It's like, oh, okay, we still can't have a leading man unless he does martial arts.
Yes,
So I get that.
and unfortunately, I remember saying I was talking in Asian film class. I remember saying, "Oh, I was a huge fan of Bruce Lee, and I love Bruce Lee." And I just remember my professor, who was actually Korean, and he said, Bruce Lee is the biggest Asian stereotype of all time. He spoke broken English. He did kung fu. He did all this stuff, and it was just like, and what did everyone do in the '70s? And everyone does that. And even Jackie Chan says everyone comes up to him and does that, like, ha, like that, like Jackie. And he's like, I've been in serious films, like, don't do this because I don't just do this, and but that's the problem, I think. And until we get away from that, I'm glad that we are. And like I said, it's little steps. So the
Yeah.
last thing I wanted to end on with you guys, and I know you guys didn't see it, but I just wanted to talk to you a little bit. I don't know if you have seen any episodes. I started watching the first episode of Beef.
I
Very
saw
good
two
film. So, and again, that's like, I know a lot of people have commented about, like, it's perfect because it shows like that Asian kind of just like anger that you get when you're just, oh, and madness. But it's so great because they're they don't have accents and everything, and they're just like normal people. I think everyone can relate to getting behind the wheel and getting mad at somebody that cuts you off or does something like that. So hopefully this will help break some more of those stereotypes as well. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like from a personal standpoint, one thing that I've noticed change in what I do. So I write a lot. So I write a lot of short films and features and stuff like that. Now I haven't made a whole lot of them, some. But one thing that I've noticed is my writing has changed. So when I would write things, I would just wouldn't have an Asian male in there at all because I felt like the only way that I would ever get that person cast was going to be a stereotype. So all of my leading men were white. Like that's just how they're represented because I wanted that film to get bought. And for the first time in a long time, I've seen my writing change to where I feel comfortable having an Asian male as a lead. For the first time, my writing has like, because I've had like all kinds of stuff where I've written it and I'm like, oh man, I wish this could be an Asian role, but I'm like, no one will ever buy it that way. No one will ever look at it and say, yes, this could be done by an Asian character. And for the first time, I have that hope. I feel like all of my character development and stuff and all of the things that I write has changed to such a degree that like now it feels like that's what I can do finally. What I've wanted to do my whole life, I can finally do, which I think is just so amazing. Such a great feeling.
I just want to say I haven't seen Beef yet. I am planning on watching it, but I love accepting that Asian people can be angry and that
yes,
we can be anything but perfect. I think that that was one thing I also liked about Everything Everywhere All at Once is the allowance to have a full range of emotion and not just be some one-dimensional character.
yes,
Um,